Welcome to today's Explainer. We're jumping right into a space we all know incredibly well. Think back to your childhood. Honestly, was there any place more sacred than the sleepover? It's supposed to be the ultimate safe space, right? Staying up way too late, endless video games, mountains of junk food. But what happens when that bubble of security just completely pops? Today, we're focusing on how that totally innocent environment can instantly and without any warning become a terrifying ordeal.
Okay, let's dive into this. Universally, a sleepover is, understood as a night of fun, junk food, and above all, safety at a friend's house. But we're going to completely deconstruct that definition today. We're going to ironically contrast this innocent, fun expectation with the brutal, suspenseful reality found in the source material we're about to analyze. Because as you'll see, safety might just be an illusion.
Here is our roadmap for this investigation. We will examine Case 1, the prank call, move to Case 2, unwanted house guests, and face Case 3, the tall figure. Finally, we'll cover surviving the night. Let's open the first file.
Section 1. Case 1. The prank call. Escaping the unthinkable.
So the setup for this first case is incredibly relatable. You've got a 15-year-old and his best friend Anthony, and they've got the house all to themselves for the weekend. At 10 p.m., surrounded by popcorn and video games, they decide to make some harmless prank calls. The narrator dials a totally random number, gives a fake name, something like Bob, and reaches a man with his deep, gruff voice. But then, the voice on the other end pauses and says, "You sure it's not Anthony?" Think about how chilling that is. The caller ID only displayed Anthony's dad's name. The boys frantically scoured Yahoo Answers trying to figure out how this perfect stranger knew exactly who was in the house, but they found absolutely no clues.
This harmless prank quickly builds into an absolute escalation of dread. The call happens right at 10 p.m. Just minutes later, the boys hear the front storm door open, and the main doorknob actually begins to turn, thankfully stopping at the deadbolt. But moments later, the terrifying sound of the back gate opening echoes through the yard. The narrator realizes, with a total sinking feeling in his stomach, that he forgot to lock the back door. He sees a tall silhouette step inside. And then, seconds later, the slow, agonizingly heavy thumps of footsteps begin heading up the stairs, coming straight toward Anthony's bedroom.
The boys scramble under Anthony's bed, which has this cloth covering the bottom, acting like a blind. Just imagine the intense sensory details of this moment. They're lying there in pitch-black silence under the bed. They hear the heavy footsteps enter the room. They hear the closet door creak open, followed by the terrifying sound of coat hangers sliding around as this intruder checks between the jackets. Then, the footsteps stop right beside the bed. The narrator actually has to clamp his hand over Anthony's mouth just to muffle the boy's loud, frantic breathing and thumping heartbeat.
This brings us to a frantic escape, because without any warning, the intruder reaches under the bed and violently drags Anthony out, who is just screaming in terror. Acting on pure instinct, the narrator spots a screwdriver sitting on the nightstand and grabs it. He desperately drives that screwdriver straight into the intruder's back, forcing the man to scream in agony and drop Anthony. In the utter chaos, the two boys bolt out the back door and dive straight for the dark tree line in the woods to hide.
But the nightmare isn't over yet. Hiding behind a bush in the pitch black, they watch the intruder step out into the backyard, just scanning the dark tree line. Suddenly, he turns his head directly toward their bush. The boys completely panic and run, but every single step they take to escape creates these loud, crunching sounds on the leaves, completely giving away their position. They literally dive face down into the dirt. High-speed footsteps come rushing up behind them, stopping just 2 trees away in the dark. They lie entirely paralyzed until, finally, the footsteps head off in another direction.
They wait in the dark until it's finally clear, and then they make a mad dash back to the house. They lock the door, call the police, and then the narrator does something incredibly brave. He hits the switch for the backyard floodlights. The yard illuminates, and there, standing perfectly still by a massive tree in the far distance, is the intruder. He just stares for a moment before silently turning and disappearing into the woods forever.
Section 2. Case 2. Unwanted house guests. The illusion of security.
Now, what's really interesting about this case is the contrast. A man gets into a massive argument with his wife and decides to crash at his buddy Paul's huge house for the night to cool off. Paul has 2 extra unused guest bedrooms right next to where the narrator is sleeping, and Paul assumes they're simply locked for personal storage. But the grim reality is much, much darker. The narrator tries to sleep, but he's kept awake by annoying noises, a distinct physical tap on the shared wall, and a faint, muffled voice. The truth is, those rooms aren't storage at all. They are actually occupied by dangerous intruders.
The narrator finally convinces Paul to grab the keys, and what they find reads straight out of a grim police report. They unlock the first door and immediately feel a cold breeze from an open window leading out to the patio roof. They find empty bags and quickly realize Paul's valuables are missing. But when they unlock the third guest bedroom, things turn truly horrific. They see a black figure leap out the window to escape. Left behind are white bed sheets completely stained with blood. And most terrifyingly, lying right there on the closet floor is Paul's missing kitchen butcher knife, covered in blood spots.
You want to know the most chilling realization? These dangerous, likely homeless drug addicts had been living undetected inside Paul's house for over 1 week. 1 whole week. It completely recontextualized a comment Paul had made earlier. See, Paul is a very skinny guy, but he had recently complained to the narrator about how fast his food was mysteriously disappearing. These intruders were quite literally living off him, sleeping just inches away on the exact other side of a locked bedroom door.
Section 3. Case 3. The Tall Figure. Pure psychological dread.
We're stepping back in time for this one, to a 10-year-old boy's very first sleepover with his friend Jordan. The boys are down in this massive, sprawling basement. After playing video games until 1 a.m., skipping brushing their teeth, and finally falling asleep on the basement couches, the boy wakes up. Which begs the question, what was standing in the dark by the stairs? The basement is mostly dark, illuminated only by the dim, gray light of a blank TV screen that they'd left on. And silhouetted against that faint light, standing in the far corner by the stairs, is a massive object. It's so toweringly tall that it reaches almost all the way to the basement ceiling.
Click, the TV turns off. Total darkness. Seriously, imagine the absolute terror of this moment. The only source of light is severed, plunging the entire basement into pitch blackness. The 10-year-old boy is entirely paralyzed by fear. He's trapped in the dark with this towering entity. He's so terrified that he just shuts his eyes tightly and lies completely motionless on the couch, not even daring to breathe, until pure, exhausting fear eventually forces his body back to sleep.
The climax of this story is deeply unsettling. The boys are abruptly woken up again, but this time by Jordan's mom screaming from upstairs. They sprint up to the master bedroom to find her just crying. Jordan's dad is tearing the house apart but finds absolutely no signs of forced entry. However, Jordan's mom tearfully confirms the horror. She saw a tall, dark figure standing right by her bedroom door. It wasn't a dream. It was physically roaming the house.
Section 4. Surviving the Night. Anatomy Analyzed.
So the crucial point is, how do we actually protect ourselves from these scenarios? Let's take a step back, move away from the terror of these case files for a second, and extract some practical lessons that you can apply to your own life and your own home. First, lock all your doors. And please, don't forget the back gate. As we saw in Case 1, a simple oversight is literally all it takes to invite a nightmare inside. Second, investigate strange noises immediately. Don't just assume a locked room means an empty room like Paul did in Case 2. Next, never share personal information with strangers, especially over the phone. And finally, trust your gut instincts. When something feels off, it usually is.
I want to leave you with a lingering thought tonight. You've seen the evidence. You've seen exactly how quickly the illusion of safety can just break. So, when you lock your doors and turn off the lights tonight, how safe are you really? Thank you for exploring these chilling case files with me on this explainer. Stay vigilant, and I'll catch you next time.